By default, it just gives us a random sky. So you can change that by just going to sky and preset and changing for anything there if you wish. So let's just have a quick look, make sure everything's all in and lining up, which it seems to. There is my high poly. So I'm just going to minimize that because it's brought in all the different meshes underneath that one sort of group. And then I'm going to hit the loaf of bread, which is a new bake. And then I'm going to drag the low poly and put it underneath the low, make sure it's attached to it, so it's a child of, and then the high underneath the high. Then what I need to do is come into my low, baker one, and I'm going to hide my high poly. So if I click that, it hides the information. So I'm only seeing my low poly. And then what I wish to do is go and hit P for preview. And it will say, where do you want to save? And then I'll say, I'm going to save it here. I've got into my images and a bake. So I just want to save it as a radio, to be fair. Radio save. And then it will preview our bake. So if we come here, we can see the Roberts logo that starts to come through. And the mesh that's on our low poly now. So that is my low poly baked. And it's looking reasonably well. That's looking pretty nasty, but we'll go over that in a second. That's coming through. That's okay because we know that's hidden. But that's looking okay, those ports there. And yeah, all in all, the antenna's looking good. I'm pretty pleased, but you can see this. We've got some weird thing going on here. If I just click on this cage, you'll see now this is what's being projected. So if things are too close, if I just reduce this offset, so it's searching from the low poly and it's searching for the high poly. So the high poly within this cage, and it's updating for me now. I think it's crashed, one of the two. There we go. So now I've updated that cage. We don't have those artifacts on that face anymore because the cage isn't seeing that. And what it was finding this and it's projecting it onto that in a sort of distorted way. But the issue that we may have now is that it might not be picking up the sign enough, because if I come into my high poly, if I just select the high poly, you can see there's the Robert sign and it's sticking out further than the cage. So the cage isn't finding it, nor is it finding the mesh properly. So we do this explode bake so that we can get a better representation of our information. So the strap's got some weird errors going on. I'm going to have to check at the UVs actually, because that's picking up the grill, which shouldn't happen. So some of this doesn't seem like it's actually UV'd. So I don't know what's going on there. So we'll come back in. But one thing that I'm going to notice is that in order for me to get a decent Roberts logo, I have to expand it out too far to the point where that's clipping. And look out, so it's just a bit ridiculous. And this, I think, is going to be too ridiculous. So I may come back in and do this one individually and this individually. But I'm going to have to go in and check the UVs on that, because we can see the grill is getting picked up. So something is amiss there. And so we'll go from there. But we'll redo that and that separately to all the other bits. So I'm just going to close this down for now. And I'll come in here and just check my UVs. Oh, okay. That's a little bit strange why that's done that. So let me just fix, I don't know, maybe I didn't save it or loaded the wrong thing. So let me just quickly fix this. Get. And set. Oh no, the other one's down there, so that's a bit strange. So I'll just get that one and set this one. So there's an odd error that I don't think I've ever really encountered before. So that's the UVs fixed for a start. And then I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to take out just these. So just these bits, because I can get away with a much smaller frame on those. So I will then come to File, Export Selection, and then I'll do low poly, radio low poly A, and then this. B, and then do you know what? I may even separate this out even more. And bring that up to that value. And I've lost that translation now, but it's not a massive issue apart from I've just changed the UVs, but we'll figure it out. And so that file export selection, and I probably should name them not ABC but by their actual names, but this is what I'm doing. File and export selection. So I'm going to do them out as 4 separate things, and I think that will give me the best bake possible. Then I'm going to bring my high poly back, and I need to separate that. And then I need to take this, copy that, paste that in to make that match. And then I need to make sure that I take the same stuff. So that was bake A, he says. File, export selection, and then it's radio HP. And to be fair, this all could just be B because of the distance. That's me being silly. So because we've spread that out, all of that can be B because of the way in which we've done it. Sorry. HP B. And let me just redo the low poly. Oh, hang on. Oh. Okay. Right, what I'm going to do, because I've just done them all, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to just delete all of those. And just start again. Don't know what that is, blockouts. Let's get rid of those as well. So, right. High poly. A. Which will be a small search, a small cage. Bake A. And then this and this will be file and export section. Bake B. Okay, and I'm going to hide that. Bring this back. Oh, hang on. These are the annoying things because I've been cutting and splicing. So my low poly now has these because I combine them, not within this. So I want to add selected objects. No, not that. I don't want that selected. So those and add selected objects. So then that is my low. Make sure I've got everything in my high. So I just need to re-save my B because I would have taken out the low poly ones as well, basically. So yeah, these are the really silly, annoying little mistakes that I make. And B, save. And yes, I want to replace it. Export. Okay, done. So if you're not paying attention, like me, and you do those things, that's what happens. So then I'm going to bring back my low poly. Grab these, and then I'm going to file and export selection. And this will be bake A, but I need to distinguish that this is actually low poly. And I'm going to save. Done. That would be considerably quicker. Take that. File, export selection, bake B, and low poly. Now we should be able to get a better result from this. So I'm going to open up Marmoset again and give that another go. So I'm going to take them all in. So everything is in there, both bakes. Then I'm going to get baker 1, bake A high, and then bake A low. I had to think for a second there. And then I'm going to get a second baker, which will be bake B high and bake B. I'm guessing it's that one. Hang on, low. Just give me some space. Like so. So I'm just going to close my baker 2 for a moment, or at least minimize this. Going a bit laggy. I've got a lot of things going on at the moment on this computer. Okay, so we've got baker 1, which is just this. Baker 2, which is this. So let's go with baker 1 first. More confident with this one. And let's just come in and we can see what's going on. And I'm just going to hide my high poly with this. And you'll see that the high poly, that's still visible. So it's just on this one. And then I am going to hit preview. Okay. Radio. Bake A. And it'll do its preview. There we go. And now what I want to do is come into the low, and it's still huge. And then I'm just going to lower that down so it's as close as I can get it without any of those weird artifacts going on. And I think that's okay. Let's just come up here. Have a look. So that's picking that up. And I'm not worrying about it looking a bit like that at the minute, because when we actually bake it, it should be fine. And then down here, I might just need to expand it so it's not clipping out there. So to that, how does that look everywhere else? Not too ridiculously large, is it? Yeah, it's quite silly. So I'm just going to bring it down and see what effects it has on the other one. And then I will just come down and go to my baker group, sample 16, change it to a 4K. I can always bring it down afterwards if I need to. I'm just going to bake the normals at the moment. And then I'm going to hit bake. And that's baked, and that looks nice without that kind of weird faceting. They're looking okay. Come up here, just double check. They're looking all right. That's fine. Not worried about that because it's hidden. How did that come out? few issues there, so maybe that needed to be in the larger bake group. So can I actually? So it's that surface there. I'm going to move that in my bake a low poly. Ooh, my mouse is playing up on me. And throw it in my low poly here. Yes. And then with my high poly, surface 126. Could have just done this in the first place. Put that in my high poly there. So now I've switched that around so that with this bake A, my high and my low, I can now reduce this cage like it is, so then that can bake properly. So let me just come back and where are we? Baker, and then hit bake. And just redo that. Then I'm going to come to my Baker 2, and then I'll hide my high poly, and then I'm going to preview again, select output path, and then I'm going to do radio bake B. And hit save. And now I can do a larger search. To try and find that rabbit's sign. I don't think I need to be quite that far out. And then I want to make sure that up here is not getting too many areas. I think this one really should have been group A, to be fair, so I don't catch over there. So what I might do is just take that one and drop that into group 1, Baker 1 low poly. And then if I just open the high, drop that into the high there. So, and that, to be fair, that can just remain in the low as well, because I've separated those out. So that's just me thinking. So that can go into Baker 1, low poly. That can go into Baker 1, high poly. So now if we just zoom out a minute, we've got, okay, and that's its separate mesh. So that wants to go in the high poly 1. Okay, so just checking that we've got these right. So Baker B, Baker B, Baker B, Baker B. That's fine. And then I'm just going to come back to Baker 1 and bake out that again with those additional ones. And it should be a bit cleaner now. Still getting a few artifacts, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. And yeah, so overall, I think we've got a decent bake, apart from this is now. Okay. I've lost the there's the display. So let's just drop these into the group there. I think that may have been what the issue was. Baker 1, bake. Do we need to adjust the gauge? Okay, I've broken it by moving things around. There is the high, and there is the low. Right, that's annoying. I was all ready to go, but for whatever reason, it's not liking it. Let's try and bake a 2. Rather than do it on a small map. So that's working. That's worked. Baker 1, on the other hand, is having a little bit of trouble. I'm going to try a new bake and then drag bake A into the high, low into the low. Oops, wrong note. Delete Baker 1. Now I've got Baker 3. Get there in the end. Hide the high poly, hit preview. Okay. And then this is Baker A. Hang on. Yeah, there you go. Now it's previewing. Don't know what was happening. Don't care. It's working. Baker 3. I'm going to increase the samples. I'll do it to 64 now because I'm happy with what I'm going to get. That, and then I'll do the normals. And ambient occlusion and material ID. I think I'm going to do those 3. I'm going to do the curvature in the other one. So I'm just going to do those 3. And then I'm going to hit bake. Okay, so that's baked out. And let's just come in. Yeah, that's come out nice. Cool. I'm happy with that. And the antenna's looking good. And then I will come in and do bake B. So Baker 2. High. So I want to increase that cage. I think I've just overwritten the baker on it, haven't I? So I'm just going to create a new baker again, Baker 1, and then Baker 2. I'm just going to grab Bake B, the high, low poly into the low. Select Baker 3 and just Baker 2 and delete it. Hide the high poly, select preview. Okay. So I've just done Radio Bake A. Now I want Radio Bake B. Normal. I've got 2 normals there. Ah, okay, that's why. take out the normal. I've kind of messed up my naming convention here. So I just want it as ready bake B and then save. Yes, I want to replace it. There we go. And then cage. And then baker 1, 64, 4K. I think I did that on the other one. Material ID and ambient occlusion, and bake. I'm going to open up Photoshop. There you go, that's baked. That looks great on there. So now I'm just going to open them in Photoshop. So find my okay, so I've got these here. So I need to rename them. So I've got Radio Bake Normal, Radio Bake Normal AO. So that is just the Radio Bake Ambient Occlusion. Then I've got Radio Bake a normal matte ID. So that's just my material ID. So that's that one, matte ID. Then we've got Radio Bake a normal. So that is that one. So that one is wrong. So I just want to delete that altogether. So bring this in and delete a normal. And then I've got Radio Bake B, ambient occlusion, Radio Bake B, material ID, Radio Bake B, normal. So that one I can delete and that one I can delete. So then I've got these 6 maps that I can open up. And come over here and we can see now the normals that they've created. So there is some issues in those normals, but they're coming out okay in general. You can see the material ID. Now I'm a bit confused as to colors because they don't actually relate to the colors here, I don't think. So let's just show the high poly and hide that. So it should be green and yellow and it's kind of red and green. So let me just see if I can understand why in the settings. So let's just come in and say, where are we? So Baker 1 is this one. Okay, so tangent space, maybe this is it. Got I try Maya. Let's just see if that's the reason why. Just bake that out again. And then I'm going to try and reopen that. Update. Made no difference to the color. Let me give it another try. Make X normal. MIKK and X normal. Give that a go. It's not an issue as such because it has given me colors, but it's not the colors I've selected, which I'm finding a little bit strange. So I might have to just give a little bit of research into why. Okay, and now let's just re-import that. Update. No, still the same. It's not a huge issue as such. But what I do need to do is just combine these all into kind of one mesh. So for example, I've got my ambient occlusion, and there's my radio bake A. Bake A and bake B material ID. So if I come in here and I'm just going to select by type, unlock it first, might help. Color range, sorry, and then select the black. Okay. And then I can just control an I, oops, no, control shift I to invert my selection. And then I'm going to control and C, come to control and then come into my material ID here. And then I think it's control shift V, which should paste in place. Yeah, so that's then that, and we've got all the kind of the button information in there as well. If we just come just about, I think that's a little dodge. So I'll have a look to see why that's not working, the color ID. So that's a bit of an issue. Because this is how we would sort of max out areas and paint basically. But we'll see. It's kind of working for the most part. But what I've done now is that I've got this selection. Actually, I want to compile them all into one file first. So file, new, and it's going to be a 4K. So let's go to custom 4K, create. And then I just want to control A, control C. And then in my untitled one and my layers, why gone a bit funny, one docket over here, please. I'm going to create a new folder. O for ambient occlusion. And then a new folder. Normal. New folder. And matte ID. That's the ones I've got for now. So then I'll come in and control A, control C, and in my normal, paste that in there. And then I've got control C, matte ID, paste that in there. Control A, control C. So this is how I want everything basically in one file rather than scattered over all this 6. Paste that into the AO. Control A, control C. Material ID, paste that in there. Oh, and I've done it in a deselect, control A, control C. Okay, fine, whatever. It's gone in like that, that's fine. Oh, that's why. I've taken that one. Control A, control C. So I've just basically copied the same one onto itself. There we go. And then the bake, control A, control C. And normal. Like so. And then what I would do is then take this filter, select color range. I'm just going to take the black OK, and then inverse, and then I can basically, well, for this, I can just delete, it's the wrong one. But so I'll inverse that and then delete, and then Control Shift I to invert, because I want this selection. So then I can actually, no, I can just go on there, and then if I come to my normal, I can then delete that, which then reveals everything underneath. But it's overlapping quite a bit of stuff. So it's overlapping that. So what I will do is just go to filter, selection, and modify. No, where are you? Grow. Oh yeah, so it is modify. And I think it will be contract the way in which I've got it. And then I'm just going to say 10 pixels. No, it's the wrong way. Always is. Modify and expand. Say 20 pixels. No, I need more than that. And then I just want to delete. So I just need it a little bit more to not that. So it's, I'm deleting in, I'm sort of basically coming in. So this is like the bleed area. And I think it will be fine. He says, select, modify, and expand. And I'm going to do this again, under the 20. And then I can just hit delete. And then I'm hoping that'll be all right, he says. So then I just need to come back and do the same in the material ID. So it all matches basically. And then we've got the AO, and then delete, and that just should reveal everything else in there. So then I've got that, and then I can just save this material ID out, and I'll save this as a TGA as my kind of final output. And then that is my radio underscore color ID, 24-bit, that's fine. Hide that, control it, and save this out. And then this will be again TGA radio N for normal. Save this. Target TGA radio underscore AO. So there I've got my baked meshes, maps, and I'll save the Photoshop file as well. Okay, I can see it. And then I'll just do this, and I'll do my texture maps. Leave that as a Photoshop document so I can come in and edit later on if I need to. And then the next thing I want to do, I'm going to close that down. I'm not going to save it. Is come in and reset my radio. And I could ordinarily, I can just select all of that and then just hit 0. And it will all come back into place. Like so. But me being me, I kind of messed this up. So I can do that. And then I'm going to have to move this down manually because I separated it and then I didn't take note of the distance that it traveled. So I'll have to come down. And just eye that up. Ooh, too much. Way too much. Why is that so sensitive? There we go. So I'm really far away. Just get that kind of back in place. And then get the high poly. Select all of that. And just put 0, and that should all come back into place. And that is going to have to come down again. We're roughly into place, but to be fair, I think we're finished with the high poly now anyway. So I just can hide that, bring back my low poly. And I just want to make sure that I save this out. But I want to make sure that what's going on with this. That needs to come over. It's already baked, so it makes no difference. But I don't quite understand why that's off between the two. But the bake is fine, so that's okay. I can move it around now. So I've got this, and then I will delete history, freeze transformations, do all of that business. And then I just want to make sure my pivot point is down behind my doorbell here. And then File, Export, Selection. And then this will be my low poly. FBX file, assets, low poly, or just, hang on, radio, LP for low poly. And then hit save and export. And there is our bake done, ready to go into Marmoset. Sorry, Substance Painter.